up, dudes? HW here. How the heck are you doing? I don't know what that was. That was something that started in A and ended in A, I guess. I think that was genreless. It didn't know which genre it wanted to be. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Things that maybe don't know what they want to be. Let me tell you what's been going on with me. It's a beautiful afternoon here in Nashville. I'm just playing the guitar. I was getting a pack ready, putting it up on the website. It's what I was just playing right there. And in the past 2 weeks, I have conversated or traded texts with, I would say, 2/3 of the brands of modelers that you are playing. And it's been about stuff, developments or something. And I would say that I'm having this experience. I'm getting uncomfortable making declarative statements about what players want. Because it used to be that I felt like I had a pretty good pulse on YouTube comments, Facebook groups, Reddit, the gear page, on what people were looking for when it comes to modelers. But I think we're in a time now where I'm actually not positive. I'm not confident in telling any company anymore, this is what players are looking for, or this is what players want. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I think that when we first started this whole modeler thing, players were after something very simple. They wanted realistic tone and feel. And that was the big mountain, right? And so I think we got to realistic tone before we got to realistic feel, right? A lot of modeling stuff lacked the feel. Kemper, I think, had better feel, but I'm not sure it was the most amp-like feel. It just felt really good. The Kemper kind of had a good feel. I'm not sure that it perfectly emulated all the feel of the amps that it had. It had a sort of really nice feel to play, and players said it was very amp-like. But I'm not sure it perfectly copied the feel of every amp as well as it got the tone of the amps. Does that make sense? And I think models largely did that too. You got to a point very quickly with modeling, like with the Helix, for example. By the time the Helix was out and they did a couple updates that really improved the quality, the later models really just nailed the sound and the feel. I think largely the feel, mostly the sound. And we got to a point where it was like you can trick the audience, but you might feel a little different. But if you were a guy who played with a compressor on, that's kind of what you felt anyway, and the compressor was there, right? Then we get into the next sort of phase where it's like everyone started updating their effects. Really, all of the companies started just displaying long-term support for all of their stuff. We got new effects, new capability. They were adding this and that, right? Kemper added a bunch of cabs. We saw QC redo reverb so you could fit more in there and add a bunch of updates. Line 6 came out with more amps, more amps, more amps, more effects. Fractal kept doing more stuff, right? And that's really where we were. And we got to this point where it was like, look at everything you can do, right? And you can run 3 reverbs. You can run this and that. And you could kind of do, like, all the pedals were in there, right? All the fuzzes, all the this, all the that. You had all the options, right? And it was like the race to be the biggest platform that was all in one. And it felt like that. It felt like that became the big thing. Support and all the options, the optionality of it. And now we've gotten to this other place where it's like the third wave, right? And I say it's like the third wave because I think we largely got to realistic tone and feel. You can, cue somebody in the comments. I'll do it before they do. The video is called "What Do Players Really Want Out of Modelers?" Right? And someone's just going to say, "Oh, we just want it to sound like a tube amp," right? Okay, I get it. There you go. Congratulations. You probably wrote that before I even said it. Tone and feel. Then it was all the optionality, effects, tape, verbs, this esoteric reverb, that thing, realistic creation of this, modulation, like put together these really complicated sounds and routing systems in one thing. Now we're at this third sort of, I think, it's like point 3, where all the platforms have kind of gone capture. NAMM is proliferating now through everything. We're about to see that wave hit. We're seeing it already. Anagram came out. Headrush says they're going to be out this summer. And I'm sure we're about to see Moore, Hotone. Everyone's going to do an upgrade. And by Thanksgiving, I'd be surprised if any of the Chinese manufacturers, any of the modelers, that did any sort of conversion or anything like that. I'd just be surprised if anything's not. I think you're going to see more Hotone and Ampero and all those guys start doing conversion, right? And by the way, if any of them had told me that, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I can only tell you, I can't tell you about the things I actually know about. So if I'm speculating, they haven't told me that. But I'd be very surprised if they didn't have a software update. So you have this capture proliferation everywhere. You have all these different things. And everybody jumped into more and more features, right? But we're at the point where everything has a ton of delays, a ton of reverbs, everything has a ton of models built in, everything's doing like some sort of capture tech, and most of the capture tech, people who are already doing capture tech, they're on V2. Tonex V2, QC V2, Kemper V2, Proxy is now out, NAM is proliferating everywhere. Okay, where do we go from here? What do people want? I only see two features that anyone is leaving one platform for another for. And that's this. I have seen people who are happy on one platform jump from one platform. They're happy with the tone and features and everything for only two reasons. They either, one, want a touch screen, which now seems to be everywhere, or they want to be able to run two captured amps in stereo together. And right now, what lets you do that is Proxy, QC, I think the Headrush lets you do it. I'd have to go just double check how it works with everything in terms of how much DSP captures take up. But you can do it. You can run two, just like you can with Proxy. So those are the three that are doing that, right? Those are the three that have stereo, and I've seen people jump there. And what I've seen is QC with the QC, the smaller one, they came out, not the Nano, but the mini one. They have really sort of said, hey, pedal board guys, here we are. You know what I mean? If you were buying two Tonexes or stereo UA pedals, now you can have this, right? It even better fits on your board, right? If that's what you were doing. And maybe people are going to do that. It also has a ton of effects in there and everything. So that's sort of where we're at. I've seen those, that's been sort of the last two really important things. Some people have said, I have to have a touch screen because I never want to use it on my computer. I personally, if you have a great editor on your computer, I'm using that because I'm often sitting at my desk when I'm dialing this stuff in. And then the other thing is, I've seen some people go, I want to run stereo captures. Now that's not it for everybody. And I think actually what's funny about that is most people running stereo amp captures, I think, are still using two Tonex ones. So what's funny is I think the most popular solution for people who want to run stereo amp captures is actually not a device that runs stereo amp captures. When I say stereo, I mean, you can get a stereo delay and reverb out of the Tonex, but you can't run two captures at once in the Tonex One or the full Tonex pedal. So, but ironically, I think they're actually the leading solution if you're one of those people like in the worship world. But, QC has kind of gone after that, and I think Proxy is, offering that also. But what else is there? What else are people asking for? And I don't know the answer. And so it's to the point where when I'm having conversations with companies, I don't like to say anymore, here's what people are looking for, here's what I see on the boards. And I used to do this a lot. I used to say, here's what I think there's a group of people that want this, and I hear this. A group of people that want this and that kind of thing. Or I'd say, hey, I know there's a good amount of players out there that really just wish they could do X, Y, and Z, right? Or they're looking for more options here. Or in general, your unit, if there is an opinion about it being lacking, it's in the reverbs, rather than the delay, right? I've offered insight like that to anyone who wanted to ask, just because I spend all day kind of doing this and stuff. And it's to the point now where I look at like a company like Line 6, and I look at a lot of the features they have put in the stadium. And this is no shade on them. They've put a tremendous amount of stuff in the stadium, where you can run full band tracks and everything. But, and they're kind of the only thing that does that. But I'm not sure how many people are in that case using it. Now, I do think people will start using it because that feature's built in. So the user base for that feature will grow. And I think people will try it out. because they have the capability to do it. Another example of this is like Headrush had the auto-tune thing, and they really started focusing on the singer-songwriter market. Like that was their little niche they went after there. But to me, I'm thinking like, I don't follow anyone on Instagram who's a singer-songwriter. I see a lot of those guys. I mean, I follow Dovidas, but I see some of those guys. But the people that I'm like kind of aspiring to be like and play like, they're not really doing that. And so that's like a very utility type feature set to build in there. So I guess my question is, what are we still looking for? We have really accurate tone and feel. We have capture ability. Some units have the ability to do captures in stereo left, right, like, split 1 amp, one AC30 one side and, reverb to the other side. That's what I'm running right now currently on Sunday mornings. And you have all sorts of features in terms of, nobody is lacking in overdrives, delays, reverbs. Like, nobody is out there right now like, oh, but they don't have this type of, verb or that type. Everyone's got all these options. Now, there might be certain algorithms you really, really navigate towards, gravitate towards, what I meant to say, really it pulls you over there. But, they're all kind of there. You can get like if you're a worshipy guy and you want the delays and reverbs, you can just go on Instagram, type in any platform and the word worship after it. You'll find people dialing in tones that sound great for that on everything, even on the very cheap stuff. And so I'm not sure what manufacturers are supposed to do at this point in terms of selling features. It now, I think, comes down to how much of a buzz can you put around your product and how excited can people get for that? I don't see anybody after this NAMM thing. I don't see how anybody comes to the market with some new functionality that hasn't been there before, because the digital platforms today are emulating everything we did in the analog world and more. And I don't know what big feature is missing that people are demanding that's going to drive somebody to jump up to number one. And it's no longer touchscreen or, a little more DSP that lets you run something in stereo. I guess that's the whole point of what I'm saying. What is left to do in the digital world? Cue someone saying again, actually sound like a tube amp. Okay. I think the people though who say they don't sound like tube amps are really still, they're just caught up in the very sophomoric, sort of dilemma of, I like the sound of my amp, but not necessarily the sound of my amp mic'd up, right? I think that's actually where a lot of people fall apart with the digital stuff. And the rest of us, well, we're playing amps here, and then we are used to in-ears and stuff. And, nothing against you if you don't like in-ears or whatever. I'm just saying, it seems like the world is navigated that way, So what do you still want in a modeler? What is left to do? And why are you choosing one platform over another? The workflows have become very similar. If you ask me, the workflows have become more similar on a lot of units than not. I look at Axe-Fx, Helix, Quad Cortex, and from what I see, what looks like it's the X-Wrecker, that UI all looks very similar. The drag and drop, you kind of draw your signal chain or move across lines. That's all very similar. Headrush and TMP Telemaster Pro are very much like that, except you sort of choose what you want it to be. It's not fully free, but you have a couple different templates and you choose from there. If everybody gets NAMM, the capture tech is like, what's going to be the differentiating feature? Delay and reverb? I can't see that happening. So I'm just not sure. Is it price point? Is that it? Right? Competition should drive all the margins down. Maybe that's what we start competing on. Maybe it really becomes a game of price. What do you think? What are you looking for?